Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was raised by Killer Bee and become overpowered. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Two figures were walking towards the village of Konoha. Both were around 6 feet 4 inches and had an insane amount of muscle seen clearly even with their dark skin. They shared the same white blonde hair. There were several differences though. The one on the right, dressed in Kumogakure's cage robes, was Yatsuki, the Yondaime Raikage. He had a small mustache and short triangular beard, the same white as his slicked back hair. He took a sideways glance to his little brother, Yatsuki Kurabi, or as he called himself, the Killer Bee. Kurabi had a simple goatee on his face and a bull's horn tattooed on his left cheek. His black oval sunglasses gleamed in the sunlight and he hummed a tune. Atop his head was his white Kumogakure Hetai Ite bandana, covering his hair. He had a white single-shoulder strap flak jacket on his torso, which had 7 katanas attached to it. With tape around his wrists and a red belt around his waist, he truly took to the name, the hero of Kumogakure. I was roused from his thoughts when his brother spoke up. "Yo, bro, where'd you go? We're almost there, man. Pick up the pace or I'll leave you alone while you tan," rapped out Kurabi. Aside as his eccentric brother made a fool of himself. For being the only known Jinchuriki alive to control his Biju, Kurabi was too cocky for his own good. I hurried his pace and stopped at the checkpoint at the village gates. The guards seemed intimidated by the two hulking figures. But I figured it was because no one in this village knew how to make commitment about training. Elsewhere, a green-clad Jonin sneezed. He then proclaimed how, through the power of youth, he would climb the Hokage monument using only his mouth and feet. After getting checked out by the guards, A and his brother walked towards the Hokage monument. After 10 minutes, however, it became apparent that Kurabi was no longer at his side. A groaned before going to look for his brother. B. I called out, "Come on. I've got to do this meeting. This is important, damn it." Unknown to the slightly fuming Raikage, Kurabi was investigating something his Biju had sniffed out. The tall man quietly made his way over to an orphanage, where he heard a woman shouting, skin smacking skin, and a child crying in pain. "Yes, now I remember. That son of a bitch finally got caught," Hachibi muttered in Kurabi's mind. "Hurry, B. My brother may be strong, but his container obviously isn't." Irabi walked into the orphanage and saw a sight that angered and horrified him. A caretaker, he assumed, was smacking a toddler across the face several times. The woman was shouting obscenities at the boy, asking him why he thought he was allowed to eat food meant for humans. Kurabi scowled and made his appearance known as he grabbed the assaulting woman's hand before she could strike the boy again. "Leave the kid be, bitch," he said, "or I'll make sure you'll never again be able to scratch an itch." The woman looked horrified at the sight of an obviously strong man threatening her. Before Kurabi could say another word, the frightened woman ran out of the room. Turning back to the crying child, he looked over his features. The boy was smaller than he should have been, looking slightly malnourished, and his clothes were nothing more than shredded rags. The boy had spiky blonde hair and his eyes, though red from crying, were a cerulean blue that hid nothing from the Killer Bee. Kurabi I led softly to the boy and knelt down next to him. The toddler looked up at him while sniffling. "Hey there, bud," said Kurabi, "what's got you down in the mud?" The boy giggled, slightly amused with how he talked. Kurabi smiled, taking this as a good sign. "So what's your name, little man?" he asked. The kid sniffled and rubbed his eyes before replying. "Uzumaki Naruto," he whispered out. Kurabi gave the boy a grin. "Strong name ya got, kiddo," he said. "My name is Yatsuki Kurabi, but you can call me the mighty Killer Bee." Naruto giggled again. "You silly." Kurabi deflated slightly. "Nah, bro. Rapping is the only way to go." Naruto laughed again before sighing. "You probably gots to go back to Gigi, huh?" Kurabi arched a brow. "I ain't got to go anywhere, little man. What's say ol' Killer Bee gives you a hand?" Kurabi picked the boy up and set him on his feet. He dusted the boy's shoulders and back off and then spat into his hand and wiped some dirt on his face away. Naruto giggled. and shoved his hand away while Kurabi smirked and ruffled his hair. "There we go," he said, "good as new." Naruto smiled up at him, "Thanks Killer Bee-san." The door opened again and two robed figures walked in. A looked almost murderous whereas his elderly companion had a soft smile on his face. A stormed over to Kurabi and gave him a good whack across the back of his head. "Damn it B, how many times do I have to tell you not to run off while we're in another village?" Scolded the Raikage to his little brother. Kurabi rubbed his head. "I think we were on number 254, he muttered out, "but after that whack, I don't really know." A giggle from the sunny blonde gained A's attention and he looked down at the smiling toddler that was standing behind his brother. A looked at the boy with wide eyes before looking back at the sandame with narrowed eyes. "You, me, talk, now," he said sternly as he walked into another room. The Hokage sighed and nodded as he followed the fuming Raikage into another room. A cleared the room and shut the door before placing a silencing jutsu on it and turning on the Hokage. "What the hell is your Jinchuriki doing in an orphanage?" he hissed out. Having seen what happens to Jinchuriki because of his brother, he strongly supported their proper training and care. He viewed them as the people they were, which is easy to do when your little brother has a biju sealed inside him. Due to circumstances from 3 years ago, the Hokage said, "We cannot afford to put him in his rightful home without the council and villagers throwing a riot." A riot, a repeated, still considerably upset. "Your Jinchuriki, who contains the strongest biju might I add and is the heir of the Namikaze clan, is being treated like a pariah and you're worried about a fucking riot. You're the Hokage for Kami's sake, Sarutobi. Act like it." Sarutobi sighed. I know you and Minato were close despite being on opposite sides of the war, but things have changed ever since he died." A punched the wall, nearly knocking it down but still making a large hole in it, and said through gritted teeth, "Minato's son deserves better." Jiraiya felt the same way, Sarutobi said. "The council forbade him from interfering with him though." The Raikage growled as he crossed his arms, "And you're just going to let the beatings continue? You're the one that saw the beating through your crystal ball. Are you telling me that woman isn't going to be reprimanded?" The Hokage became grim. "The woman will indeed be reprimanded. Don't think me as cold-hearted as you make me out to be. That boy is the only thing I have remotely close to being a grandson. I do my best to make his life better with what I can do, but there isn't much I can do." It was then a gleam appeared in the old man's eye. His grim look turned into a smile and I wondered why he would smile during this conversation. He then realized the professor just thought of a very good loophole in the council's rulings. "What are you thinking about, old man?" I asked cautiously. The Hokage smiled as he lit his pipe and opened the door, breaking the seal. He walked over to Naruto and Kurabi, who were sitting and thinking up raps the older Jinchuriki could use. The approach of the elderly Hokage made Naruto smile brightly and he stood to greet the Hokage. "Hi Gigi," he cried out, "Killer Bee-san and Mer later times." "That's a good one, little nine," Kurabi muttered as he wrote the lyrics down. The Hokage chuckled and walked into the room, curious of what the Hokage would do next. "Naruto-kun," Sarutobi said, gaining the blonde's attention, "how would you feel about leaving the orphanage with Kurabi and A?" Naruto's smile grew larger as he cheered. Smirked as he realized just what the old Hokage was planning. He walked forward and smiled at the blonde, who looked amazed at the bulky Raikage as his mouth was agape and his eyes were wide. "So you're going to come to Kumogakure with us, if that's okay with your Gigi," the young Raikage said with a smirk. Naruto immediately started pleading to Sarutobi to let him go with the two Yatsuki back to Kumogakure in Kaminari no Kuni. The Hokage pretended to think about it before dramatically reluctantly agreeing. Naruto cheered and rushed back over to his new friend Kurabi's side and excitingly telling him what just happened. Come on, what little kid hasn't done that?" And Sarutobi exchanged a smile before quietly conversing amongst themselves. "We'll take good care of him," the Raikage said, earning a nod from the Hokage. "I know you will," said Sarutobi. "And be sure to have Kurabi train him." Smirked, "Nah, I'd thought I'd let Katsu do it. Who else could train the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune?" After a meeting between the council and the Raikage over trade proposals, the Yatsuki brothers and their newest charge Uzumaki Naruto were at the gates of the village. Naruto was wearing new shorts and a green shirt, courtesy of the Raikage, and was riding the shoulders of Kurabi. Both were happily chatting, rapping away as the Raikage said his final farewells to the Hokage. The three newcomers went on their way back to Kumogakure, where they would settle the Uzumaki into his own apartment next to Kurabi. Time skip. 11 years later. Uzumaki Eieieee. The teacher, Mikuru-sensei, cried as he suddenly found high MSELF dangling from the ceiling of the classroom. The class all turned to look at a smirking blonde with feral-looking whisker marks on his cheeks. He had a sleeveless white flak jacket on, imagine a white bulletproof vest that had several spots where scrolls could be stored, and on his back was the signature Uzumaki swirl. Atop his head was a blood-red bandana that held up his spiky bangs over his head. He wore standard shinobi pants along with a red belt and a katana attached to the right of his belt. His feet had black shinobi sandals on them. Tattooed on his left shoulder was the image of a curled-up sleeping fox with 9 tails running down his arm. His cerulean blue eyes glistened with humor dancing in their reflection. "Sorry, sensei," the blonde replied with his smirk still plastered on his face. "I'll cut you down once you change that B+ to an A." Mikuru grumbled under his breath for not remembering to change his A student's grade back to its rightful spot after an accident. Dent with his typewriter caused him to mismark his paper. Several students were snickering at the small rap attack the blonde was known for. His best friend, Omoi, who was too paranoid for his own good, was nervously gnawing on his sucker's stem. The dark-skinned blonde was often seen at Naruto's side. The two were inseparable ever since they began attending the academy. The only downside was when ever Naruto would pull one of his pranks, Omoi would be muttering his worries of conspiracies, which annoyed the other blonde to no end. "You know, if you don't cut sensei down, Naruto, you could be reprimanded," he said, "or the Raikage could throw you in prison, or the council could expel you from the village." Or, he was cut off when the red-headed dark-skinned girl behind him slammed her fist into the back of his head, causing his face to connect with the desk. Another round of laughs adorned the classroom when the students witnessed another Omoi Karui comedy moment. Naruto flung a shuriken at the ninja wire that held his sensei immobile and hung in the air, causing the chunin to fall, flailing his arms as he fell, and hit the desk, knocking the poor man out. Naruto stood up and stretched his head as he walked to the front of the classroom. He stepped over the unconscious form of his teacher and erased the front of the blackboard. He formed a single seal and 2 Kaminari Bunshin appeared next to him. One was handed a scroll Naruto pulled from a drawer in the desk and the other wrote on the board, "My name is." The students all clapped and some whistled as they knew what would come next. The clone with the scroll unsealed a beat mixer from the scroll and began scratching the record. "AN. Italics are Naruto and parenthesis is his backup, or in this case, his clones. Hi, my name is what? My name is who? My name is Slim Shady. Hi, my name is what? My name is My name is Slim Shady. Ahem, excuse me, can I have the attention of the class for 1 second? The kids all cheered as Naruto rolled his shoulders and grinned. "Hi kids, do you like violence? Yeah. Wanna see me stick 9-inch nails through each one of my eyelids? Wanna copy me and do exactly what I did? Yeah, try. Sit and get fucked up worse than my life is. My brain's dead weight. I'm tryin' to get my head straight, but I can't figure out which girl I wanna impregnate." The girls in the class all giggled and the boys all laughed as Naruto made small pelvic thrusts quickly before continuing. "And Dr. Dre said, man, Slim Shady, you a basehead. Then why's your face red? Man, you wasted." The kids cheered and clapped as he continued with his rap. The DJ clone scratched the record again. "Well, since age 12 I've felt like I was someone else 'cause I hung my original self from the top bunk with a belt. Got pissed off and ripped Pamela Lee's tits off and smacked her so hard I knocked her backwards like crisscross. I smoke a fat pound of grass and fall on my ass faster than the fat bitch that sat down too fast. Come here, bitch." Naruto reached for one of the girls sitting in the front, but his clone pulled him back and slammed him into the wall. "Shady, wait a minute, that's my girl, dog. Naruto shrugged and dusted himself off before smirking and flicking his clone off. I don't give a fuck, Kami sent me to piss the world off. Hi, my name is what? My name is who? My name is Slim Shady. Hi, my name is My name is what? My name is Slim Shady. Naruto was now standing on the desk waving his hands, causing the class to mimic him. Unbeknownst to them, a genin rank blonde girl was walking through the hallways. She was helping several of her old senseis with their classes. She approached her old final year classroom and paused at the door when she heard music and cheering behind the door. That's new, her Biju muttered. Shall we explore, kitten? Hell yes, the blonde Kunoichi thought angrily. Her jaw dropped once she barged into the room and she saw another blonde standing on a desk nodding his head to the beat. My English teacher wanted to flunk me last July. Thanks a lot, next week'll be 10 plus 5. I smacked him in the face with an eraser, chased him with a stapler, and stapled his nuts to a stack of papers. Oh, the blonde girl's jaw was popped open as she watched the blonde teen hop down and jump down onto her tied-up sensei. Mikaru grunted in pain and clutched his stomach as Naruto stepped off him. 99% of my life I was lied to. I just found out that my mom did more dope than I do. Damn, I told her I'd grow up to be a famous rapper, make a record and name it after her. Oh, thank you. He's very delicious, isn't he, kitten? Nibby purred as she watched the blonde Nobi in training through her container's eyes. The girl slowly nodded before shaking out of her stupor and narrowing her eyes at the rapping blonde. Shut up, Nibby. You know you blew up when women rue. Shush up your stands and try to touch your hands screamin', like Usher fans. This guy at the White Castle asked for my autograph. Dude, can I get your auto GR? Dear Dave, thanks for the support. Asshole. It was then Naruto noticed his unwelcomed guest. A smirk appeared on his face and he rushed over to the girl, grabbing her hand and pulling her into the classroom. The other students all gasped collectively. The DJ clone kept working on the beats and Naruto asked, "Hey there, what's your name, you pretty thing?" The girl had a small tint of red from being pulled into the thing and she said, "Ni Yugito." "And you are?" Naruto just smirked and pointed at his DJ clone, who scratched the record again. "Hi, my name is what? My name is who? My name is Slim Shady. Hi, my name is My name is what? My name is Slim Shady. Stop the tape, this kid needs to be locked away, get him. Dr. Dre, don't just stay there, operate. I'm not ready to leave, it's too scary to die, fuck that I'll have to be carried inside the cemetery and buried alive. Yup. Naruto walked up one of the rows of steps and walked onto the top of the middle desk. Am I comin' or goin'? I can barely decide, I just drank a fifth of this vodka. Dare me to drive? Go ahead. All my life I've been very deprived, I ain't had a woman in years and my palms are too hairy to hide. He held his hands up and 2 yellow patches were visible, causing several girls to be blown back by massive nosebleeds. Yugito blushed heavily as she saw the hair vanish in a puff of smoke. She heard Nibby purr in approval and she thought, you think that's good? Kitten, how many boys have you been with again? Nibby asked. Yugito's blush increased and Nibby chuckled, exactly. Trust me when I say, the ones with the dirty mouths know what they're talking about. Yugito then saw that the blonde had lost his shirt, leaving his chiseled body in view and causing her to have a slight nosebleed. Nibby's purr increased tenfold and a look of lust appeared in both Yugito's and the Neko's eyes. He started pulling his vest back on and continued. I lay awake and strap myself in the bed, pull a chainmail vest on and stab myself in the head. I'm steaming mad. And by the way, when you see my dad, tell him I slit his throat in this dream I had. Naruto hopped back down onto the stairs and walked back to the front of the room as the DJ clone scratched the record. Hi, my name is what? My name is who? My name is Slim Shady. Hi, my name is My name is what? My name is Slim Shady. He bowed before the class as the DJ clone did a final record scratch. The class erupted into cheers as Mikaru broke his bonds and stomped over to Naruto. He raised his hands and growled out, Uzumaki, Naruto. Naruto turned around, rubbed the back of his head before yelping and jumping out the window, his clones in tow. Mikaru hollered out the window after him, "You just wait until I tell Raikage-sama what you did." Yugito CL eared her throat and Mikaru swallowed and dismissed the class. Yugito crossed her arms and smirked. "So, sensei, are you having a bit of trouble with one student?" Mikaru sighed. "Yugito, you have no idea. He's Raikage-sama's adopted brother. As if that isn't enough, Kurabi-sama has taught him his interesting speaking habits." Yugito's jaw dropped. He's Raikage-sama's. No wonder he's so solid," Nibi purred. Yugito wiped the blood off her lip from the image Nibi sent her of the other blonde's body. She shuddered as Nibi kept sending her images of the blonde doing things to her. "I believe we should look into this mystery of Uzumaki Naruto, kitten," purred the Neko. Yugito nodded as bid her sensei goodbye and shunshin to her hotel room. The past few minutes had given her an urge she needed to settle. As Yugito filled her tub, she cursed the Neko for passing her heat onto her. She then climbed into the tub and enjoyed her private time. Not before Nibi had one last say, though. "I wonder if he's single." Yugito's scream of frustration was heard throughout the village. A spiky blonde looked up when he heard a fit of rage and chuckled as he walked towards his hotel. His head was nodding to a beat that was non-existent and writing lyrics down in his small notebook. Suddenly he stopped in mid-step and sentence as he heard a soft whistling sound approaching him. He leapt to the left, dodging a blade that was now embedded where he once was. Unnerved, Naruto stood and shouted at a figure standing on a roof. "What the fuck, man? I was tryin' to make a clean escape." Kurabi leapt down next to him and pulled his sword from the ground, sheathing it before he rounded on the young blonde. "Shame on you, 9. Skippin' out again. What did you do this time?" "I didn't do nothin'," replied Naruto. "Unless you count hanging your sensei upside down by a thread." Kurabi chuckled before smacking Naruto upside the head. Naruto glared at him while grumbling obscenities. Kurabi started walking towards the Raikage office, with Naruto reluctantly following. The blonde knew he was going to get chewed out again anyway, so why not get it over and done with early so he can focus on his lyrics? Something he knew he could beat his brothers at. I was having a rough morning. First, several chunin were attacked on the outskirts of Ta no Kuni. This struck him as odd, because usually the daimyo of Ta no Kuni often allows all shinobi, no matter what village of origin, passage and resting spots. According to the report, his chunin were attacked by shinobi wearing a headband with a musical note symbol. Hoping this was the last of his headaches, I cast that problem aside and read through other reports. That's when he read problem number 2, A's alliance with Iwagakure was in jeopardy. He received a letter of caution from the Tsuchikage that if a certain blonde-haired shinobi was ever seen in Iwa, he would be captured and held hostage. This wouldn't worry a normally until they detailed the characteristics of said ninja. Blonde spiky hair and bright blue eyes. Those specific characteristics only belong to one shinobi in training under his command. Uzumaki Naruto, or as Kurabi calls him sometimes, Brother 9. This is problematic for the Raikage for 2 reasons. 1. He would never let Onoki get away with a threat to hold his adoptive brother hostage. And 2. How did Onoki even know that I had taken the son of Konoha no Kiroi Senko, Konoha's yellow flash, from Konoha when the only ones aware of this fact were himself, Naruto, Kurabi, and the Sandaime Hokage? This was needed to be looked into by Shock, his special Anbu organization designed to find information within another village through the shadows of a cloudy day. The last problem also revolved around the youngest Jinchuriki of Kumo. Apparently, he had managed to set up a tripwire trap that would dangle his sensei a good 7 feet from the ground during the 15-minute lunch break. Unfortunately for the sensei, several witnesses in the mess hall place Naruto arguing with Karui and Omoi during all of those 15 minutes. Knowing of his ability with clones, they also made sure he was eating, which he was. So there was no real evidence that he had done the dirty deed. I had an inkling a certain message from a certain cage was more than just a message. I chuckled when he thought about his little brother's gift with sealing techniques. He might not be as skilled in taijutsu or genjutsu as he is with ninjutsu or schooling, but Kami be damned if he hadn't figured out fuinjutsu. When the white-haired Sannin stopped by for a week, the Toad Sage had been so impressed by the boy's skill, he almost took Naruto with him for a year's worth of training. Almost being the key word, 'Cause he then became subjected to the least favorable skill throughout Kumo that Kurabi had honed to a near impossible status. Naruto was officially the best rapper in Kumo. Even Kurabi admitted he was better at rapping than himself, which is a shock to everyone when Kurabi admitted it. I heard a knock at his door and he said, "Enter." He was surprised when his secretary entered the room with wide eyes. She stuttered out, "S sir. Why your BR brothers are here to see you." Suspected that Naruto and Kurabi, two of the most hot-headed people in the village, unable to sit still for more than 2 seconds, would ask to enter his office when usually they would barge in. I noticed that his secretary was still standing there with wide eyes and continued, "I said they could come in." "No sir. But, it's probably best if you come see for yourself," said the still shocked woman. Aside before he stood and walked out of his office. What he saw nearly made his jaw drop. Spinning on his head and elbows on a piece of cardboard was Naruto, along with 4 others making beatbox sounds, and Kurabi was whooping and cheering him on. I felt a migraine forming and walked over to the spinning blonde, grabbing his left ankle and yanking him away from the piece of cardboard. The other Narutos looked up and started laughing while the one in his grip made a raspberry at him before vanishing in a puff of smoke. 3 of the other Narutos also vanished while the original stood smirking and Kurabi was snickering into his hand. "What is the meaning of this, Naruto?" I asked his little brother. Naruto crossed his arms. "My guess is you've had some bad reports already, before you read the one concerning me and Sensei," Naruto said, "so I've come to plead my case and avoid getting into major trouble today." I groaned. No matter what he tried, the boy refused to speak normally, opting instead to rap. A glance at his other little brother made him realize that Kurabi was absolutely glowing with pride. As though the Hachibi Jinchuriki was taunting him with his smug smile. "Let's just get this over with," muttered the Raikage as he went back into his office. The 2 Jinchuriki followed him. He sat in his chair while Kurabi chose to lean against the wall and Naruto opted to pick up one of his dumbbells, starting a round of bicep curls while he sat on the workout bench A had in his office. I pulled a bottle of his and his brother's favorite energy drink originated in a small village on the eastern side of Kaminari no Kuni. Pouring 3 glasses, he pushed the 2 meant for his brought hers close to the edge of his desk and started drinking his own glass. Naruto and Kurabi took their glasses eagerly before they downed them in seconds. I set his glass down before he looked at Naruto as the Raikage and nod as his brother. "Tell me, Naruto," he said in his cage voice, letting Naruto know he was completely serious, "why did you decide to hang your sensei upside down, disrupt your class, and completely humiliate a renowned genin of Kumogakure?" Naruto poured himself another glass before replying, "I did it for fun, sir. And I didn't know that Yugito was renowned, speaking of which. Why did the scent of a cat come off of her?" Kurabi answered, "She's like me and you. Instead of 9 tails, she has 2. Naruto nodded his understanding before the throat clearing of A brought his attention back to the Raikage. "Thank you for sharing the S-rank secret with someone who isn't even a genin, B," A said with sarcasm evident in his voice, "but I want to know how you pulled that prank off, Naruto." "Gotta thank the old geezer for that," Naruto said, leaning back on the bench, gripping the bar. "That cage bunshin technique is really fat." And Kurabi both lost their resolve at that. The cage bunshin, thought he gave Naruto one of the most reverent techniques in Konoha. Holy shit. Kurabi and exchanged a look and both nodded at each other before they looked back at their little brother. It was Kurabi that spoke. "Little bro," he said, getting Naruto's attention, "would you like to become a genin?" Naruto cocked an eyebrow. "Whatcha mean, B? I've got a few months still ahead of me." "What he's insinuating, Naruto," I said, "is that the fact you've mastered a forbidden technique from Konoha, managed to somehow set a trap while you were eating lunch in front of a good couple hundred people, which I refuse to tell you how I did it," Naruto interrupted, "otherwise there's nothing special about that shit." "Right," said like I was saying, it's because of these facts that we've decided you are eligible for the genin exam usually given by jonin instructors. Instead, I will be giving you this exam." Naruto choked on his drink and exclaimed, "What the fuck? Are you shitting me?" And Kurabi blinked, surprised by the fact he hadn't rapped. I continued with a smirk, "What's wrong, Naruto? Can't think of a good rhyme this time." Naruto glared. I'm not joking. Around this time. Bro, are you too serious about me becoming a genin? Kurabi answered, hell yeah, little man. You've got all the skills necessary and without the aid of your friends. Smirked, but you'll be taking the test with another genin who I believe is eligible for a promotion to chunin. If you pass with her help, not only will you be made genin, but she'll be placed on your team as your captain. Putting 2 and 2 together, Naruto paled. Oh, no, come on bro. She'd, what if, come on. This is bullshit. Hey, Kurabi shouted, slightly offended. Naruto flipped him off before continuing. What did I do to deserve this? You admitted it before, said slamming his hand on his desk. You attacked and apprehended your own Chunin sensei under the surveillance of several hidden Anbu operatives on duty. Which in itself is threatening to the shinobi of my village. If it were up to the council, you'd be put in Anbu training immediately and be, myself, Omoi and everyone else in this village wouldn't see you for years. That and the fact you contain a biju would make it all the more reasonable for this to happen. Naruto started to retort when it continued, would you enjoy that, Naruto? Would you enjoy life in a barracks? To be trained as a soldier to attack from the shadow of the clouded day? You would never be able to live a normal shinobi life afterwards. Realized he was pressing too hard as Naruto was now looking at the ground, a frightened look on his face. Looking at Kurabi, realized he unconsciously triggered something that happened to the young blonde. He sighed audibly and pressed the button on his intercom, get me Naruto's therapist. Naruto, the kind elder Ki said to the now stoic blonde, Naruto-kun, look at me. The now dead blue eyes of Naruto looked up at Ki. A soft voice emitted from the blonde, Ki Bachan. That's right, Naruto, she said softly, you're safe here with Ba-chan. Want to tell me what's on your mind? Naruto's pale blue eyes looked past her to the large mirror on the wall. It was just like the one he'd seen before. 6 years ago, when he revisited Konoha, he looked back at his grandmother. She never once lied to him. Never did anything to hurt him, but why was he afraid of her now? On the other side of the glass, the 2 Yatsuki brothers listened to the session. Normally they'd respect Naruto's privacy about the kidnapping that occurred 6 years ago, but now they had to know exactly what Konoha's root did to their little brother. Naruto was calm throughout the whole session, just staring at one thing at a time. Hearing what the emotional trainer did to him nearly caused Kurabi to lose it. And that's saying something. Kurabi turned to his brother and removed his sunglasses, something he never did. Even when he was serious. Barely registered that Ki had instructed Naruto to sing his calm song. Naruto took a deep breath before softly starting. He's fine, most of the time. He takes his days with a smile. Reikage-sama, Kurabi said, looking at his brother without his glasses, I humbly request permission for an A-rank assassination mission of my own payment. Moves like a dancer in light, spinning around to the sound. But sometimes he falls down. Didn't even look away from the session at his brother, denied. Breathe, just breathe. Take the world off your shoulder and put it on me. Bro, you hearing what I'm hearing? This isn't some fucking guy just kidnapping kids from villages, Kurabi said, this is a black operation going on behind Akage's back. This is a violation of the Third War's Peace Treaty. Let the life that you live be all that you need. And we'll let it go, replied. Kurabi placed his glasses back on and scowled. Grabbed Kurabi's holder before he could storm out and shoved him against the wall. Kurabi snarled and made to charge at his brother when spoke up. He likes Kumo at night, he thinks of running away. Shine on, bright like the sun, I need to hear you say. I need to hear you say why. Don't you dare attack me, Kurabi, the Reikage growled. I have no qualms locking you up in your cell for a few days until you cool down. Breathe, just breathe. Take the world off your shoulders and put it on me. Breathe, just breathe. Let the life that you live be all that you need. You're losing it, Kurabi shouted. Those motherfuckers don't deserve their status as the strongest village. That fucking liar. He was in on it. Naruto was now tapping his foot to the beat of the song and Ki was humming along with him. Let go of your fear. Let go of your doubt. Let go of the ones who tried to put you down. You're gonna be fine. Don't hold it inside. Don't be afraid to let it all come out. Realized. That Kurabi was indeed losing control of himself and did the one thing he swore off doing unless it was completely necessary. Naruto's voice quieted once again. Breathe, just breathe. Take the world off your shoulders and put it on me. Breathe, just breathe, let the life that you live be all that you need. Cocking his fist back, I silently prayed he wouldn't miss his chance. He charged 70% of his lightning chakra into his fist and punched him in the face. Kurabi stumbled backwards and passed out from the amount of pure electricity charged into his brain, forcing him into a knocked-out state. I looked into the session room to see Naruto was now yawning and lying down on the bed in the session room. He knew Ki had activated the genjutsu during the final lyrics and smiled at her from behind the glass. He was an extraordinary genjutsu specialist in her prime and she still was. The only one who rivaled her in skill was Konoha's genjutsu mistress Yuhi Kurenai. Aside as he realized he would have to assign someone to keep an eye on Naruto now that his repressed memories were breaking through the surface. With Kurabi being too attached to Naruto, there was only one other the proper skills necessary to do this. He pressed a button on the side of the wall and said, "Bring the restraints for Kurabi. Take him to his apartment and activate the seal. And bring me Niyugito." A few moments later, Kurabi was being calmed down and meditating in his apartment while the blonde Jinchuriki named Niyugito was standing alongside the Raikage. This was something she wasn't used to. But she knew how he felt towards her. She wasn't the demon container to him, she was a genin with extreme talent. She was staring into a darkened room behind a glass. "Okay, I give up," Yugito said, turning to the Raikage. "Who's in there?" Akiri Nin. I chuckled, "I should certainly hope not." He pressed one of the buttons on the left of the window and spoke into the receiver, "Rise and shine, punk ass. Today is the beginning of your genin examinations." I stepped back from the glass as soon as he finished saying that. Yugito gave him a weird look before resuming trying to peer into the darkened room. A figure suddenly slammed into the window and she jumped back while subconsciously pulling a kunai out for defense. To her left the Raikage chuckled before pressing the button and speaking again. "Get off the window, smart ass." Several electrical discharges were visible before a voice called back, "Yo. Turn the lights on, man. You're a genin in training," I replied to the teenage voice. Yugito swore she heard the voice before but she couldn't place it. "This is stupid. Just because I'm a fuck. Son of a motherfucking goddamned bitch." The voice shouted. I chuckled again before pressing the button. "What did you do, dumbass?" asked the Raikage. The voice grumbled more obscenities before taking a breath and replying. "Stubbed my toe." That comment caused the Raikage to roar in laughter and Yugito had to fight back the urge to laugh with him. The Neko in her mind however was laughing her ass off. Hee, "Oh Kami, he stubbed his toe." The cat asked. Yugito sighed before rubbing her temples and pushing the Raikage out of the way and pressing down on the button. "Listen, I don't know who you are, but you will speak to the Raikage with respect," she said into the receiver. There was a pause before an audible thump was heard and laughter emitted from the room. A tick formed on Yugito's head and she was about to retort when I pushed her aside and pressed the button down. "Would you rather I turn the lights on so you would be shown before a certain feline friend of yours in all your glory?" Silence. That was all that came from the room. Some shuffling G was heard and then something knocked on the mirror. "Can I get some pants or something, please?" the teenaged voice meekly asked. Yugito blinked before looking up at the Raikage who was trying to saint. Eiffel his laughter and pressed a blue button near the com. A shifting sound was heard and more shuffling before mocking laughter came from the teen. "Oh, hardy har, bro, give me my pants before I blast the door open." "You know I can." The Raikage pressed the button. "What, they don't fit anymore?" "You know damn well they don't fit anymore. These are from 2 years ago." "Impossible," the Raikage retorted. "We grabbed those from your apartment." "Well, they don't fit," the voice replied with a growl. Nibby purred. "Ooh, I like this one kitten," the cat purred in Yugito's mind. Yugito rolled her eyes and thought. "You don't even know what he looks like." "No, but I know what he smells like," the cat said with a smile. "Remember a certain foxy smell from earlier today?" Yugito nearly fell on her ass. She walked closer to the window and closed her eyes, muttering, "Nekomi no jutsu, cat's eye jutsu." Opening her eyes, she now had bright green eyes like that of a cat along with slitted pupils. She peered into the room once again and saw that it was indeed the rapping blonde she had run into at her old teacher's room. What he was doing in a holding cell though. She noticed the foe X tattoo on his arm and the blue eyes that seemed duller than the last time she looked at them. When he spoke again she lost the concentration for her jutsu. Never mind, I got it, was putting them on backwards, said the blonde. Slapped a hand on his face and turned the lights on in both rooms. The blonde walked over to the window and peered into the room A and Yugito were standing in. Yo, bro, where'd B go? The blonde asked. Yugito studied the boy. Unconsciously, she licked her lips and purred in approval as she looked over his body. In her mind, Nibby was losing it and sending Yugito images of her jumping through the window and straddling the blonde while stripping herself. Yugito shook her head and blinked a few times before the voice of the Raikage snapped her out of her stupor. This is Ni Yugito, A said. She will be your examiner. I thought that you were going to examine me bro, the blonde replied confused. Yugito looked between the two and noticed there was little to no similarities physically. The voice of her sensei went through her mind and she remembered he was the adoptive brother of the Raikage. Things have changed and new information has risen that I have to keep an eye on. A said in a formal tone, until further notice you are partnered with Ni Yugito, first year Chunin, and you will be conducting missions together for the next year, or if she deems you ready for a real exam then your partnership will be void. What? Oh, come on, the two blondes said simultaneously. Smirked. This was going to be an interesting year. Yugito growled to herself as she walked through the streets of Kumo. When I find him, first, I'm going to beat him to a pulp, she muttered, then I'm going to rip his vocal cords out. And after Thatama, bove the Raikage's office by his underwear. I like the sound of part 3, let's skip past parts 1 and 2 and just rip his clothes off. Heard Nibby in Yugito's mind. Yugito whacked her ND against her forehead and muttered darkly, shut up, Nibby. This isn't the time, party pooper, I am this close to throwing away that scroll about the foreign cats. Yugito threatened causing the Neko to become quiet. The blonde resumed storming through the village, glaring at those that dared to get in her space. She looked from left to right for the blonde maid of pure energy named Naruto. Or as some kids she asked for information on him called him, Slim Shady Ruto. She had just about given up hope when she heard cheers and beats coming from around the corner of the academy. Rushing around the corner, her jaw nearly dropped. On a large stage that somehow was constructed without anyone noticing, was a white-haired dark-skinned boy trying to quiet the crowd. Behind him, however, were 7 of the blondes she was looking for were setting up equipment, all wearing black pants and hoodies. All right, Omoi said into his mic, shut it. Let me get this right. Y'all want the fast as lightnin', Konoha nin frightenin'. Downright enlightenin'. Ladies and gents, bitches and mofos, give it up, for the one, the only. Shut up, 6 of the 7 Narutos shouted, shoving Omoi into the crowd. The last Naruto made a ram seal and after a puff of smoke he appeared dressed in a white sleeveless hoodie over his usual attire along with wearing a new gleaming Kumo headband over his forehead. He held mic up to his mouth. May I have your attention please? May I have your attention please? The crowd roared with cheers while Yugito watched in awe as the 7 Narutos all fell on the ground. The white-dressed Naruto hopped back to his feet. Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? I repeat, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? One more Naruto hopped up and held a mic to his mouth. We're gonna have a problem here. The white-dressed Naruto smirked and raised the mic back to his mouth. Y'all act like you've never seen a white person before. Jaws all on the floor like Pam Wee. Tommy burst into the door and started whooping her ass worse than before their first divorce, throwing her over furniture. It's the return of the, wait a minute, did he just say what I think he did? Yugito was watching her teammate walk across the stage, pausing to rap towards an audience member. And Dr. Dre said, nothing you idiots. Dr. Dre's dead, he's locked in my basement. Ha ha, Naruto pointed at another familiar pale blonde Yugito knew. Her jaw dropped when she saw her cousin Samui smiling slightly with a blush as Naruto leaned towards her and resumed. Feminist women love Slim Shady. Uzumaki. I'm sick of him. Always grabbing his you-know-what, flippin' off you-know-who. Naruto held the mic out to Samui, who blushed and continued the rest of the rap. Yeah, but he's so cute, though. Yugito's jaw clenched and Nibi smirked. Kitten, are you jealous? Shish, shut up. Nibi. Yugito thought back as she watched Naruto hop away from the edge and stomp his foot down on the stage once. The blonde rapper pointed at his head. Yeah, I probably got a few screws up in my head loose, but it's no worse than what's going on in your parents' bedrooms. Sometimes I just wanna jump around and scream and let it all loose. But can't, but it's cool for some looser chunin to hump a dead moose. The crowd cheered as the white Naruto pointed at a hanged clone humping a moose prop. Naruto shook his head and looked back out at the crowd, making a hand seal quickly. In a poof of smoke, 2 more clones appeared, one on his knees kissing the other's ass. A black-dressed clone held up a sign and shouted, "Sing along. My ass is on your lips. My ass is on your lips." Naruto did a sweep kick, taking out the 3 clones, and continued. And maybe if I'm lucky you'll give it a little kiss, that's the hidden message we teach to little kids, and we expect them not to know what a woman's clitoris is. Of course they're going to know what intercourse is. They got the Sanin book called the Ika Ika channel, don't they? We ain't nothing but mammals, yeah, but some of us cannibals who cut other people open like a cantaloupe, slurp. White Naruto went into a thinking pose and continued. But if we can hump dead animals and antelopes, then what's stopping 2 men from eloping? Ew. But if you feel like I feel, 'cause I got the antidote, women throw up your panties up, sing of the chorus and it goes. All of the music came to an abrupt halt and the Naruto's not doing anything all vanished. The white-clad Naruto held the mic up and resumed the song. 'Cause I'm Slim Shady, yes I'm the real Shady. All you other Shadies are just imitating. So won't the real Slim Shady please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up. Naruto cracked a grin and spoke into the mic. Listen up, 'cause I ain't saying this again. He waved his hand to get the crowd to mimic him while he scattered some beats, which they did, and Yugito followed his movements like he was holding a piece of shrimp before her. Shish. E didn't understand why she was attracted to the rapping blonde, but she was. And it irked her. CCCCAA Oz, I'm Slim Shady, yes I'm the real Shady. All you other Shadies are just imitating. So won't the real Slim Shady please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up. Listen up, 'cause I'm Slim Shady, yes I'm the real Shady. All you other Shadies are just imitating. So won't the real Slim Shady please stand, I said. Please stand up. Please stand up. PP please stand up PPP. Naruto dropped the mic onto the stage and bowed his head, flipping the hood over his head with his shoulders. The crowd took a minute to realize the song was over before they erupted in applause. Naruto grinned and bowed before making a single ram seal and dismissing the stage and equipment, causing the crowd to disperse. Yugito noted that Samui stayed behind and started talking with Naruto. The Neko Jinchuriki clenched her fists, which confused her rational mind but made her tenant chuckle with glee. The 2-tailed Biju was elated that her container had finally found someone to be with. She was so glad she asked to feel everything Yugito felt. Yugito stormed over to Naruto and grabbed him by the shoulder. Come on, Baka. We've got a mission. Naruto shrugged and looked back at the slightly saddened Samui with a smile. See y'all later, Sammy-chan. Maybe you can help me with that one song I'm working on. Naruto smirked when he saw Samui turn away with a light blush on her face. Man, he was good. After being dragged about halfway through the village, Naruto decided he had a new GH and maneuvered his way out of Yugito's grip. The feline femme noticed the lack of matter in her grip and turned to growl at Naruto. She was surprised when he simply smirked and leaned in closer to her. I think it's so hot when you growl like that, he whispered, causing her face to grow red, but I bet it's downright sexy when you purr. Yugito froze on the spot due to lack of communication in her brain. Meanwhile, Nibi was drooling over the blonde. Ooh, heard the Neko, I wanna play with Shady-kun. Right now. Yugito faintly noticed someone had picked her up and threw her over their shoulder. Unbeknownst to her, as she was still suffering from lack of brain communication, Naruto was enjoying the glares other guys were sending him. He had one of the hottest women in Kumo in his hands. And he didn't plan on losing her anytime soon. Sides, thought the blonde rapper, if what the perverted sage said is true, I can hopefully get some more chicks without getting yelled at. That is, once I make Ms. Neko-chan here my first bitch alpha female. Naruto walked into the Reikage office with Yugito still over his shoulder. She had snapped from her loss of brain usage, but now she was in a dilemma. Firstly, she didn't particularly like being handled like a sack of potatoes. Secondly, she couldn't look away from blonde teammates' physique. And thirdly, Nibby wouldn't shut up about it. Just pinch it, Nibby whispered, you know you want to. See how firm his ass is, how firm he is, and then, ride him like a horse. You are so dead to me, thought Yugito in an agitated tone. She let out a mewl of surprise when Naruto set her back on her feet. She glared slightly at the white-clad genin, but froze when she saw he was smiling genuinely at her. You don't have to ask to look at my ass, he said. Walking past her into the Reikage's office. He smirked when he felt her gaze follow him and slowly trail down his back. Yugito took a moment before following her teammate into the room. Looked up from his paperwork to see Team Jinchuriki walk into his office. He smiled. Welcome, Naruto, Yugito. You know today is officially the last day of your Within Borders C ranks, correct? At their nods. Continued. Good. Your next mission will be a joint mission with the Konoha Genin team. Fuck that. The two words were said softly, but harshly. Aside as H.E. looked at his little brother with understanding eyes. The white-clad blonde had narrowed eyes and the normally blue irises were flickering between oceanic blue and scarlet red. Naruto, he said, yo. You do realize that in order to get information on that specific organization, we need to play nice with Konoha. This is bullshit, Naruto exclaimed, throwing his hands in the air. I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense, bro. What I'm saying is, why don't you just let me go talk to Gigi? He knows everything about Konoha. No he doesn't, Naruto replied in his cage voice. There are black ops organizations in each village. Not every cage has control over them however, nor do they have knowledge about them. That's fucked up, Naruto said, plopping down into a couch and pulling a notebook out of his pocket. He started writing in it, occasionally taking lightning quick glances at random things around the room. It's plausible deniability, Naruto, Yugito informed him, earning a grunt of acknowledgement from the other blonde. Yugito is right, Naruto said, so listen up. Because this mission is important. You will go to Konoha and wait with the client for the Genin team assigned to the client. Your information on the client is limited to this, he's a bridge builder from Nami no Kuni. I want you to be cautious, damn it, pay attention. Like I was saying, be cautious. If what the rumors are true, a man named Gato is near that area. Naruto scoffed, whatever, will we get extra if we off the fucker? Aside, I'll look into it. And if you do so anyway, I'll throw in a bonus for you. Naruto grinned and Yugito frowned slightly. This seemed different from the Naruto she had been spending time with. He seemed edgier than normal. The Reikage sighed and went back to his paperwork, dismissed. Naruto hopped to his feet and casually walked out of the office, with Yugito following him. Yugito followed her eccentric teammate as they walked out of the building, continuing to do so even as he walked towards his apartment. He looked over his shoulder and asked, is there any specific reason you're following me? Yugito rolled her eyes. Don't flatter yourself, Uzumaki. I am just making sure you don't go off to do another ridiculous rap. Naruto suddenly stopped and rounded on Yugito. Whoa. First off, it's not ridiculous. You have no idea how hard it is to make a statement when you rhyme. Secondly, I'm not the one following a good-looking guy back to his apartment. Yugito blushed and smacked Naruto across the face. Pervert. Naruto smirked as he rubbed his cheek and turned back around. I'm just saying. Yugito stood frozen for a split second before reluctantly following him once again. It was a few days later in Konoha. Naruto was acting paranoid and glancing at every person that looked their way. Yugito was chanting calming sentences in her head and Nibby was leering at a picture from a memory in Yugito's mind concerning a certain blonde teammate of her cantainers. Eventually, the two teens made it to the Hokage Tower without a problem. Naruto glared at the secretary that started stuttering a threat to him. No matter how long he'd have been away, no one in Konoha would let him live down the Kyuubi's actions in peace. He simply snarled and kicked the Hokage's door open. 5 people all looked at the arriving blondes, 1 with a smile, 2 with surprise, and 2 who seemed indifferent. Naruto allowed a smirk to adorn his face. Yo, Gigi. How ya been? I case ya haven't heard, the Rappin' Jinchuriki is back cause you sent Nissan a bird. The ho. Cage chuckled at the mini-rap while Yugito groaned in embarrassment. The pink-haired girl gave the eccentric blonde a look that said he was crazy and the dark brooding boy simply ignored them completely. The white-haired Jonin had a look of shock as he looked at the carbon copy of his sensei and the scarred Chunin simply had a look of anger on his face. What are you doing here? The Chunin asked Naruto, you're supposed to be dead. Naruto snarled at the Chunin, yo man, back off. I didn't do any fucking thing to ya. So unless you wanna meet my friends K and O, make like your infamous village symbol and leave. The Hokage sent a subtle glare at the Chunin before he laughed aloud at the burn and smiled at the blonde. It's so nice to have you back, Naruto-kun. Your letters sure were in tear. Sting and took even me a few hours to decipher. Naruto smiled at the elderly Hokage, thanks Gigi, that means a lot comin' from you. Ni-san and Ni-sensei say hi. The Jonin looked between the two. Hokage-sama, is he? Hi, Kakashi, replied the Hokage. He is, and I'm sure he knows a few moves that your sensei had invented. A grin adorned Naruto's face, aside from the third war jutsu, which is a bitch to figure out. Everything my old man had, I've got. Yugito looked at Naruto in confusion. Who was his father? The way the Chunin and Jonin present were looking at him in shock, his father had to have been very strong. The one-eyed Jonin smiled. I bet you are. I had the pleasure of fighting against Kurabi-san a few years ago, so I have no doubt that you're skilled. The two Genin X to the Jonin looked confused and their sensei smiled down at them. Why don't you show the Kumo shinobi around? I'm sure they would like to see our village. Whatever, the brooding boy said. The pink-haired girl smiled pleasantly at the two Kumo shinobi. Hi, she said. I'm Haruno Sakura, and this is the Uchiha Sasuke-kun. Ni Yugito, Yugito said, introducing herself, Chunin of Kumogakure. This idiot is Uzumaki Naruto. Genin. Word, Naruto said, holding up a victory sign sideways as he turned to lean on the Hokage's desk. Sarutobi leaned forward and smacked Naruto over the back of the head. Naruto turned and glared at the cage. The old man merely smiled and made a shooing motion, causing Naruto to roll his eyes and look back at the pink-haired girl and the emo. A thought aimed to his mind and a feral grin appeared on his face. Yugito narrowed her eyes at the grin that sported Naruto's face. Whenever he smiled like that, he started a fight with someone. She'd have to keep an eye on him. Keep them locked on his ass. Nibby shouted in her head. Yugito's eye twitched in annoyance and she ignored the Neko's perverted ranting. Let's do like Gigi says, Naruto said with his grin, show us around. As Yugito and Naruto were led around Konoha by Sasuke and Sakura, the latter giving a detailed tour of the village which no one was listening to, Yugito kept glancing over at her smirking blonde teammate. Her eyes kept locking on his small smirk and she told herself it was because she didn't like that look on his face. It's 'cause you think it's hot and you know it. Nibby purred. Yugito's eye twitched in agitation. I don't think it's hot. Yugito thought defensively. I just think he is up to something. Yeah, that's it. Nibby growled in agitation. Admit it. You've got the hots for him. I know it. I've seen those dreams of yours, you know. Pretty kinky if you made him beg a little first. Who am I to judge though? Yugito's nose dripped with blood as she recca. LLED the dreams Nibby was talking about and she flushed bright red. She cut the connection with the Neko demon off immediately afterwards and when she came back to consciousness, she saw Naruto smirky at the now seething emo and his fangirl. The pink-haired girl, Sakura as Yugito recalled, turned to her and shrieked, did you hear what he just called Sasuke-kun? Yugito winced and cleared her ears before turning a glare on Naruto. No, what did he say? He called him an emo faggot. Sakura shrieked. Yugito arched a brow as she looked at Naruto, who was digging through his left cargo pants pocket for something. You did? The Chunin asked her teammate. Naruto nodded as he pulled a familiar scroll out of his pocket, causing Yugito to smack herself in the forehead. She then noticed a crowd was forming. Some being shinobi of Konoha, and cursed under her breath. As Yugito turned to put her teammate in his place, he had already formed several clones that were setting up the blonde's mixer and handed the original a mic. One of the clones hanged himself into a replica of the emo, except this emo had makeup around his eyes and on his fingernails, all the while wearing a choker and a pair of tight jeans. Yugito had to bite her bottom lip to keep from bursting out in laughter. "Dear Diary," the clone said while writing in a small book, "Mood, apathetic. My life is spiraling downward. I couldn't get enough money to go to the Blood Red Romance concert. It sucks because they play some of my favorite songs like Stab My Heart Because I Love You, Rip Apart My Soul, and of course, Stabby Rip Stab Stab. And it doesn't help that I couldn't get my hair to do that flippy thing either, like that guy from that band can do, some days ya know." The original Naruto stepped forward. "I'm an emo kid, nonconforming as can be. Hell, you'd be nonconforming too if you looked just like me." The original gestured to the clone. Yugito bit her lip harder to keep from bursting out in laughter. The emo and his banshee looked livid. Several people paused and watched the odd scene. "I have paint on my nails and makeup on my face. I'm almost emo enough to start shaving my legs. 'Cause I feel real deep when I'm dressing in drag. I call it freedom of expression, but most just call me a fag. 'Cause our dudes look like chicks, our chicks look like dykes, because emo is one step below transvestite. Stop my breathing and slit my throat. I must be emo." The clone walked over to a man and made a kissing face, causing the man to have an aneurysm. At this, several people were outraged, a few were concerned for the man with the aneurysm. And even less were laughing their asses off. Yugito was one of the few laughing her ass off. The original grinned and continued. "I don't jump around when I go to shows, I must be emo." The clone stepped forward and took over. "I'm dark and sensitive with low self-esteem. The way I dress makes every day feel like Halloween. I've got no real problems but I like to make believe. I stole my sister's mascara and now I'm grounded for a week." The clone pulled a tube of mascara out and started applying it. Yugito was clutching her sides in pain as she laughed. Several onlookers joined in while the banshee and emo were fuming. The original held a fist up as he started listing things off. At this the clone started sobbing dramatically and hung off the original as Naruto patted his hanged clone's back. Yugito was doubled over in laughter. How Naruto managed to nail impersonating an overly dramatic emotional teen with possibly gay tendencies, Yugito would never know. In her mind, Nibby was purring in approval and occasionally chuckling at what was going on before leering at that one image of a certain blonde. The original Naruto started again, "Stop my breathing and slit my throat. I must be emo." The clone jumped around, more like pranced, and sang, "I don't jump around when I go to shows. I must be emo." The original grinned as he pointed at the real Sasuke, "Dye in my hair and polish on my toes. I must be emo." The real Sasuke gasped in shock and recoiled as he thought, "He knows I polish my toes. Oh God, I play guitar and write suicide notes. I must be emo." The clone started writing in his journal again and spoke, "My life is just a black abyss, you know. It's so dark, tightening its hold on me, tighter than a pair of my little sister's jeans. Which look great on me by the way." Sasuke clenched his teeth and ground them while Sakura started shouting at the blonde rapper and his clone. Naruto ignored them as he held a kunai up over his wrist. "I cut my wrists in every direction," exclaimed the original before he tossed the kunai away and the clone stepped forward. Hearing songs about getting dumped, "Give me an erection," the clone cupped himself before continuing. "I write in my private journal and wear thick-rimmed glasses. I told my friends I bleed black and cry during classes. I'm just a bad, cheap imitation of goth," the original said before. He started making whacking off gestures, "You can read me, Catcher in the Rye, and watch me jack off." Several surrounding elderly folks gasped in appall while the younger generation were either blushing or cheering him on. Kakashi had just arrived on the scene and he gasped at what was going on. The clone used henge to transform into a sleazier dressed Sasuke in skin-tight clothes. "I wear skin-tight clothes, while hating my life. If I said I liked girls, well, I'd only be half right." Naruto grinned before he made more clones that hanged into the same as the first clone. I look like I'm dead and dressed like a homo. I must be emo. I like to whine and hit my parental. I must be emo. Me and my friends all look like clones. The clones chorused, I must be emo. The clones vanished and Naruto bowed. A roar of disapproval clashed along with a roar of cheers and the blonde grinned. He walked over to his down teammate and held a hand out to help Yugito up. Kakashi walked over to them and eyed the four carefully, his eye lingering on the blonde dressed in white. As though he felt his gaze, Naruto flicked a pair of sunglasses out from out of nowhere before sliding them on over his eyes. He looked up at the Cyclops Jonin with a small grin. What's the mission, man? Please tell me it's somewhere I can work on my tan. Keep your mouth shut, Nibby. Yugito thought quickly before the cat could sneak in a perverted sentence. Nibby growled in annoyance before resuming trying to force Yugito to sneak a glance at her teammate's ass. Kakashi eyes smiled. Nope. Saddle up, kiddies, we're going to Nami no Kuni. The next morning Konoha's Team 7 woke up early and walked to the village gates. They were shocked to find Naruto and Yugito already there. The rapping blonde was jabbing the air and dodging imagined blows while humming a beat. Yugito was watching him with slight amusement, making the two members of Team 7 scowl. Oi, Dobi, Sasuke shouted as he watched the blonde practice his taijutsu. What are you doing? The blonde grinned and stopped his training. Why nothing, emo kid. Sasuke grew red in the face and grabbed the collar of Naruto's shirt. The blonde smacked the hand away and delivered two blows to the Uchiha's stomach faster than either of the other genin could follow. The black-haired boy looked up and Naruto smirked. He said as Sasuke started to roach him with promised pain lingering in his eyes. Touch me and I'll scream. Sasuke froze before huffing and going off to the side to brood. Sakura, having to choose between cheering her beloved Sasuke up or wail on the annoying Kumo boy, decided to go cheer her loving Sasuke up. Naruto grinned and went back to his training against an invisible enemy. Why do you antagonize people? Yugito asked, having witnessed the whole scenario. The rapper grinned back at her. Mind games, he replied. You mess with their heads, and they'll react with emotions, making them sloppy and insufficient. Yugito blinked. That's very wise. Naruto pouted. Neo, you really think I'm that slow? Yugito smirked. It's hard to tell sometimes with you, Uzumaki. Good. The boy replied with a grin. I'd hate to become predictable. An hour later, Naruto was resting against the gates of the village, his hood pulled up over his eyes, which were covered by sunglasses, and his head-ite loosely hanging around his neck. Yugito was doing her own training katas, something she called Neko-ken, against an invisible foe. Suddenly Naruto's head shot up with a grin on his face and he pulled his hood down as he stood. He looked over at the brooding boy and pink-haired girl that ranted on about nothing at all important before shrugging. He turned to Yugito and said, Kakashi-san is on his way with another person. The girl raised an eyebrow. How do you know that? Electric pulses in the air charged with chakra makes for a good radar, he replied with a smile. They'll be here in 15. I sug. Saint, stop training, otherwise your technique might be subject to copying, which I doubt can happen because it's your Biju's personal style. Right. Yugito nodded and Naruto grinned. Good. Better stay on the safe side though. True to what the blonde said, Kakashi had arrived a good 15 minutes later with an old man dressed in a straw hat and what looked like a workman's outfit. He was introduced to the group as Tazuna, the great bridge builder. Naruto made a crack at the old man trying to compensate for something with his title. The drunk laughed heartily and proclaimed that he liked the blonde kid. They left for their destination shortly afterwards. Naruto was relieved and dropped his guard once they left the village he had a slight detesting of. They walked with Tazuna in a pentagram-like formation. Naruto and Yugito in the middle on either side of Tazuna, Sakura and Sasuke in the rear, and Kakashi in the front. At the sight of an upcoming puddle, Yugito made to voice her worries but Naruto sent her a look. He then signed rapidly what Kakashi probably had in mind for the genin and she nodded in understanding. As soon as they walked closer to the puddle, said puddle vanished. And two men dressed in all black leapt out in blurs. They had suddenly wrapped Kakashi with a chain and the Jonin made himself look helpless. Sensei! Sakura shouted, causing both Naruto and Yugito to mentally roll their eyes. The two men pulled and the chain sliced through Kakashi. One piggy down, the man with the left gauntlet said. Piggy 2 is next, the right gauntleted man said, rushing at Naruto. The blonde grinned slightly before holding a single-hand seal. Bring it, bitches, the blonde whispered as the two wrapped their chains around him. Naruto's grin grew when he cried, discharge. Quote, lightning suddenly flowed through the chain wrapped around the blonde and shocked the two men. They cried out in pain and fumbled to remove the chain from their gauntlets. Naruto saw this and as soon as the chain around him went slack he flung two shuriken he had in his hands after performing his jutsu at them. It went through their gauntleted hands and pinned them to trees. Yugito rushed from her spot and used her ninja wire to tie the two men to the trees and remove their breathing masks before punching them in the gut to force them to spit their suicide pills out. Very good, Kak, Ashi said with an eye smile as he reappeared in front of Tazuna, detained the enemy without completely injuring them fatally and kept them from killing themselves. Yugito-chan isn't a chunin for nothing, Kakashi-san. Naruto said with a grin, and I'm top of my class. It's only to be expected. Kakashi nodded before cracking his knuckles and went to interrogating the two men. Sakura blinked before speaking. But you were, and they, how? She asked quietly while staring at her sensei. Sasuke was in the same state and also staring at their sensei. He used the Kawamari, Yugito informed them while Naruto snickered off to the side. The two Konoha genin glared at the rapper, who took his shades off and glared back with a smile on his face, before huffing and looking away. Tazuna was in shock of what the two blonde kids could do, and seeing their sensei turn back to face him with an angry stare, he swallowed. He was in for it now. So someone managed to take out the demon brothers, A shadowed figure asked his informant, a masked teen who nodded in response. The figure's eyes narrowed and he stood up, grabbing a large blade from where it was impaled on the ground by the handle. He yanked it out of the ground with little effort and slid it into its holster on his back. A smirk appeared beneath his bandaged face. This job is starting to get fun, he said. The group had continued even after discovering the truth behind Tazuna's lie concerning the mission payment. Apparently the bridge builder's country was being drained by the pig of a businessman named Gato. Gato's men had killed many and cast fear into the hearts of Tazuna's fellow countrymen. While the Konoha shinobi debated continuing on their mission, Naruto and Yugito both stepped aside and decided to continue and help the bridge builder. Because they both knew the feeling of being treated like trash due to their status as Jinchuriki. Not wanting to be outdone by the asshole rapper, Sasuke demanded they continue. Sakura backing him up in order to stay on his good side. Which is how they came to this scene, being rowed towards a large bridge in front of them. Damn, Naruto exclaimed as he saw the large bridge being built. That thing is freakin' big. And I ain't talkin' about my main man Biggie. Tazuna and the Konoha shinobi looked to Yugito, who had become the translator for her teammate, and she sighed. He's a beat boxer that runs with Kurabi-sama and Naruto Baka. Harsh Neko-chan. Naruto said as he pouted at Yugito, making her blush effectively, before he looked back at the forest on their left. He narrowed his eyes as he felt a chakra spike come from the trees. The second he tried to hone in on it though, it vanished, making him scowl in frustration. Their boat then docked on the right side of the bank and the boatman spoke, I dare not go any further, Tazuna. I'm sorry, I understand, the bridge builder said in understanding with a nod. Gato certainly had done a number on many people within Nami no Kuni. That much was for sure. Naruto took the lead with Yugito while Kakashi and the rookie genin of Konoha stayed behind with Tazuna. Naruto's attention suddenly went to a bush that moved as they came across a clearing. He threw a kunai at the bush, noticing a small flare of chakra come from it, before a squeal came from the bush. Sakura and Sasuke gasped while Naruto went to the bush and pulled out a traumatized white rabbit. The blonde narrowed his eyes at the rabbit, wondering why a snow rabbit would have white fur while out in the spring. Naruto Baka, Sakura shrieked, what were you thinking attacking a poor defenseless bunny like that? It's a snow rabbit, Naruto said, turning to face the group as he cradled the rabbit, calming it in his arms. Yugito and Kakashi's eyes widened at the significance of his words while the other three blinked in confusion. Naruto set the rabbit on the ground when the sound of An incoming object came to his mind. His eyes widened and he turned. "Everyone down," he shouted, Kakashi's own warning following shortly after him, and he leapt at Yugito and tackling her to the ground. Kakashi pulled Tazuna to the ground while Sakura and Sasuke fell to the ground and covered their heads. A large Zanbeitu flew over their heads and embedded itself in a tree nearby. Naruto got off Yugito, not noticing the glare blush on the older girl's face. A tall man, easily 2 inches taller than Kakashi, with short black hair and periwinkle pants and camouflaged armbands stood on the blade. His mouth was hidden by a large amount of tape wrapped around his face. His eyebrows were non-existent, giving him a frightening look. Around the side of his head was a Hetai Ite with the Kurigakur symbol on it. "Hey, not bad," the man said, a smirk VPED face. "But then again, what else would I expect from the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and Kakashi no Sharingan?" "How do you know about me, him?" Naruto, Yugito and Kakashi exclaimed at the same time. The man's smirk grew at their worried faces, no one noticing the odd look Sasuke was sending Kakashi. "I have my sources," the man replied mysteriously. Kakashi's visible eye widened. "You're Momochi Zabuza, my god. I thought you died in the Civil War." The white-haired Jonin exclaimed as he realized who he was. Zabuza chuckled. "Some rumors people will believe, he said with amusement. Zabuza's look turned serious as he spoke. "Hand over the old man and you might live today." "Sorry, but no," Kakashi said, reaching for his Hetai Ite before he turned to his students. "Stay out of this, he's too strong for you." "What about his partner?" Naruto asked, his eyes locking on the chakra source nearby. Zabuza's eyes widened when the blonde slammed his fist into the ground. "Raw, Iton. Shiryo no Dokuabi Kosho, lightning release, hunting viper," he exclaimed as the lightning from his hand traveled along the ground faster than Zabuza could anticipate into the forest. The sound of a lightning bolt striking and a pained yelp came before a body flew out from the forest. A masked shinobi wearing a blue turtleneck and a matching yakuta over it slowly got to his feet, barely nagging to evade the falling curb stomp Naruto attempted. Naruto scowled at the masked shinobi that drew Senbon from his pouch and said, "Fucking coward. Remove the mask so I can properly kick yo ass." Another rap, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi thought in annoyance. Zabuza arched a brow while the masked shinobi remained silent. The masked shinobi glanced at Zabuza, who nodded, before turning back to Naruto and utilized his skills in one-handed seals while the bandaged shinobi placed his immense sword on his back and began running through hand seals of his own. Before the masked shinobi could attempt to finish his hand seals, Naruto rushed towards him and pulled out a kunai, slashing horizontally and barely nicking the masked shinobi's outfit. The blonde's eyes widened as the shinobi used Calamari to escape his vertical follow-through attack, harming an innocent log in the process, and he quickly dropped into a split, his hands the right wielding the kunai in the grip of his pointer finger and thumb pushed off the ground after several senbon flew over his head. The blonde landed and spun his kunai around before holding it in the traditional defensive manner and his grin grew slightly. "Yo, man, you're alright. Too bad you're in my line o' sight. This shit is going down, aight. So throw 'em up, and let's start this fight." The masked shinobi paused momentarily, allowing Naruto to rush in and throw his kunai. It was dodged, but the follow-through roundhouse to the side of the head sent the masked shinobi flying through the air. Naruto's grin grew even more as he watched masked shinobi fall into the water before glancing back at the main threat. Kakashi and Zabuza were throwing jutsu after jutsu at each other, making Naruto wonder if he should join the testosterone throwdown. He glanced back at Yugito, the two of them locking eyes and nodding before they began running through the same hand seals. Zabuza smirked as Kakashi fell for his trap and the water surrounded him. "I have you now, Hatake. You know, this could have all been avoided." "Sasuke, Sakura, take Tazuna and get out of here," Kakashi shouted. "Zabuza is too strong for you all, and who knows what his partner is capable of." His words died down as the two blondes that he momentarily forgot were accompanying him rushed towards the water clone that Zabuza just forged. The two broke off, Naruto going left and Yugito going right. Before they slid directly opposite of each other, consequently aligning their positions up with Zabuza while Kakashi's trapped state was an arm's length away. "You think you're all that, Momochi?" Naruto growled as he held his electrically covered hand over the water. "Well, Ni and I didn't fuck off when we were traveling to Hai no Kuni, much to my dismay. Me, TR latest combo technique. Inazuma no Chen, lightning bolt chain. So do something useful yo and die today." At once, both blondes lifted their electric-covered arms and a large bolt of electricity coursed through the nuke nin that held their assigned superior in the liquid prison. Zabuza's arm, the one keeping Kakashi captive, recoiled and hugged against the body of the man. Kakashi, now free, leapt onto the dirt ground, quickly followed by the two blondes. Naruto rolled his neck and quickly turned, throwing a shuriken right at Sasuke. The Uchiha's eyes flashed red momentarily, and he bled when a Senbon closer than the shuriken was knocked away by the Kumo shinobi's weapon. The blonde grinned at the raven-haired teen, giving him a smirk. "Saved yo life, asshole," he shouted before facing forward. "Now ya owe me." "Fuck you," Sasuke blurted out, embarrassment at being saved by his chosen nemesis evident on his face. Naruto's head whipped around fast, a look of horror on his face as he looked at the Uchiha. I don't know how to tell ya this, Sasuke," the blonde said, "but I don't swing that way. I'll kill you, I swear to God, I'll kill you," Sasuke growled, his eye twitching in annoyance. Naruto faced the woods and looked over at Yugito. "Yo ni. Let's go kill this foo. Sooner it's done, sooner we're home, and then you and I can make my bed groan." The blonde Ught a Kanai heading for his face and grinned. "Oh ho, touched a nerve that time, did I? Well, there's a reason I'm rated most desired Kumo guy. Stow it, baka," Yugito snarled, looking at the Leica. Kakashi used his Sharingan to counter Zabuza's water dragon. She looked over at the blonde, only to see him vanish in a bolt of lightning. The Nibi no Nekomata Jinchuriki frowned and opened her sensing capabilities, trying to locate her unpredictable partner, but a moment later, she found she didn't need to. "Get down," Naruto shouted as he appeared behind Tazuna, shoving the builder to the ground. Just as an ice blade flew over their heads. The blonde's head snapped up and his teeth grit as his fangs became more pronounced. "You're annoying," the masked warrior said calmly, his voice sounding like a gentle breeze as he crossed his arm over his face. "Die." Naruto pulled his blade out and deflected the Senbon flying at him with precision before sheathing it again. He cracked his knuckles and grinned. "Been waiting a long time to bust out this move. Bring it on, sucka, you're about to lose." The masked hunter nin ran quickly at the blonde, surprised when he noted Naruto's body tensing. Naruto bent forward and drove his shoulder into the hunter's stomach as he wrapped his arms around the older teen's back. The hunter grunted in pain at the impact, but Naruto wasn't finished yet. Triumphantly, the blonde spun on his left heel before arching his back, lifting the Kiri Nukenin into the sky and then slamming the teen's back down through a particularly large boulder, halfway into the ground. Sekitsui Basuda, spine buster. "Motherfucker," Naruto roared as he hopped to his feet and sneered down at the injured shinobi lying in a crater. "How's about that for a finishing move, ya cocky ass, stupid sucka?" "Be bastard," the shinobi groaned, his spine and back protesting in pain, before looking over at the taped mask of his employer that was rushing to him. Zabuza looked drenched and weak from his own fight, but his eyes were narrowed in the promise of a rematch. Behind him, Kakashi laid partially unconscious due to chakra exhaustion. Naruto jumped back as Zabuza scooped his part up into his arms before dashing away. Over his shoulder, Zabuza called, "We'll be back, you brat." And then, the old man dies. "Bring it on, Tem." Naruto hollered, "I've got 200 Saiyan next time you're gonna die." The blonde Kumo nin shook his head and looked over at the group he was with, his face dropping into a frown as he noted Kakashi's unconscious state. Annoyed look on her face as she carried him. The genin looked exhausted, but Sasuke was glaring at him for reasons unknown, and the pinkett looked like she was gonna puke. Naruto scratched the back of his head before crossing two fingers in front of him. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," Naruto said, making 6 clones, 2 to carry Kakashi, 2 to assist in defending Tazuna, and 2 more to wait a moment. He looked at Yugito and the 2 Konoha genin. "Ni, you're in charge," he said with a nod before looking at Sasuke and Sakura. You two, help the clones guard Tazuna. What are you gonna do, Baka? Sakura asked, trying to appear intimidating but failing miserably. Naruto smiled and raised his left hand, his finger pointing up, before he responded. I'm going to pass out, the blonde said before falling flat on his face with a thud. The two clones he created earlier rushed to him and picked him up. Yugito rubbed her head before looking at Tazuna. Take us to your place, Tazuna-san, the platinum blonde said Ietly before smacking one of the clones carrying Naruto and dispelling it, taking its place carrying her unconscious teammate. The bridge builder chuckled before leading them on and taking them to his village. Tazuna had led them to his home, knocking on the door to reveal the face of a beautiful young woman, who he identified as his daughter Tsunami. She took one look and had to blink at the shock of seeing multiple blondes. One being unconscious, before stepping aside and letting them in. Yugito dropped her unconscious teammate on the floor while the two clones carrying Kakashi carefully set him down on a mat. Naruto sat up with a groan and rubbed his head before looking at the Chunin with a frown. That wasn't nice. Wasn't supposed to be, Yugito snapped back, already irritable from walking through the village. Who said you get to take a break? Break, Naruto repeated with a scowl. Bitch, I was nappin'. Can't expect me to be fightin' at my best if I'm exhausted, and it doesn't help my rappin'. Yugito and Naruto held a glare before they looked over at the sound of a cough to Kakashi, who slowly sat up. Fighting won't get us anywhere, the white Jonin said with a tired eye, however, training will. Sasuke, Sakura, I have a chakra exercise that you two would benefit from. You're welcome to join us if you want, Naruto. If it's that tree climbin' thing, I don't need to join, the blonde said shaking his head. I mastered that shit when I was a little boy. Always with the rapping. Tazuna thought with a grin, I like this kid. He makes things less tense around here. Stupid Baka, Sakura thought. Her face dropping before she looked at Sasuke. There's no way he mastered a chakra exercise that Sasuke and I are just learning. It's impossible. I've got to get stronger, Sasuke thought with a frown. So if that blonde idiot could master whatever thing Kakashi has, then I should be able to do it on my first try. Already know chakra walking, huh? Kakashi mused before smiling at him and Yugito. Excellent, then that way you can help Sakura and Sasuke learn it while I rest. Naruto burst out laughing, his hands crossing over his stomach and holding his sides as he rolled onto his back and laughed. He sat up and sighed with a grin before sneering, Teach, that's yo job. I'm getting paid to babysit, and all I'm doing is babysitting. Can ya dig it? Yeah, I dig it, Naruto. Kakashi sighed out with a shake of his head. Then the training will have to wait until tomorrow when I'm more rested. What about Zabuza, sensei? Sakura asked worriedly, will he come back? The way that bitch was limpin'. I'd say we'd have a week, Naruto grumbled, plenty o' time to kill Gato and finish the bridge. Kill Gato. Sakura paled at the notion. Naruto grinned, his teeth gleaming as he did so and his eyes hardening. Yeah, gonna fry that sucker, the blonde said, rolling to his back before hopping to his feet. He got to his feet and turned to the door, freezing. When he saw a kid wearing a bucket hat on his head. The boy had dead eyes and a frown on his face. You're gonna die, the boy whispered, it doesn't matter. Naruto blinked before grinning and walking to the door. Pausing as he put a hand on the boy's head, we all die sooner or later kid. I ain't gonna die tonight though, so I'm gonna go get some edible shit. Peace. Much later, Naruto walked through the village, his eyes darting around and taking in the beggars and the children fighting near a dumpster. A kid ran past him and he felt a hand brush against his pocket. Instincts kicked in and he grabbed the wrist, making the kid yelp. With a frown, the blonde took back his Gama-chan, his toad-shaped wallet, and opened it, pulling a bill out and holding it in front of the kid. Before I give you this, the blonde started, making the child look at him, I want you to get all your friends, all the other kids, and gather them, their parents, and as many people as you can in the town square. Okay, hi, the kid said. Naruto smiled and pulled another bill out, stopping the kid before he ran off, this is for your sister. Don't think I didn't see her waiting over in the corner. Arigato shinobi-san, the boy said before running off. Naruto stood and smiled. He shoved his wallet into his pocket that contained an expanded seal, protecting it from another pickpocket attempt. He turned around and whistled calmly, his step taking a small bounce as he walked to a small beat. Yugito growled as she went looking for her teammate. I swear to Kami, I'll cut him if he runs off again. The Jinchuriki thought, groaning as she heard a familiar purr in the back of her mind. Sounds kinky, Nibby purred, what else might you do to Naru-kun? I'll cut you too, if you're not careful Nekomata. Yugito growled in her mind before severing the link to her perverted biju. She paused as a bass sound hit her ears and some clapping followed it. Her eyes turned to her left and she saw a crowd gathered around something. Curious, Yugito leapt up to a nearby roof and sat on the edge over the crowd, her eyes widening when she saw her teammate strumming on a guitar. When I get older, I will be stronger. They'll call me freedom just like a waving flag, Naruto sang, making the kids near him cheer before he strummed faster and two clones behind him beat on two barrels before them. When I get older, I will be stronger, they'll call me freedom just like a waving flag, and then it goes back, and then it goes back, then it goes back, oh oh oh, Naruto sang with a smile, born to a throne, stronger than Rome. A violent prone, poor people's zone, but it's my home, all I have known. Where I got grown, oh streets we would roam. Quote, Yugito smiled slightly as the blonde handed his guitar to another villager and he started dancing with one of the little girls gathered around them before twirling her with one hand and continuing, out of the darkness, I came the farthest among the hardest survival LL. Learn from these streets, it can be bleak, accept no defeat, surrender, or retreat. Quote, but we struggling, fighting to eat, Naruto sang, pulling an apple out of his pock. And tossing it into the air before jabbing at an clone that attempted to snatch it. He smiled at the crowd as they clapped and sang softly but strongly, and we wondering, when we'll be free, so we patiently wait, for that fateful day. It's not far away, but right now I'll say why. Quote, when I get older I will be stronger, they'll call me freedom just like a waving flag, Naruto sang the chorus again. Before writing himself and bringing some of the kids in and whispering to them before they sang along with him, when we get older, we will be stronger, they'll call us freedom, just like a waving flag, and then it goes back. Then it goes back, then it goes back, then it goes back, oh oh oh. Yugito smiled as the clones dispersed and the crowd clapped and cheered. She watched her teammate pick up a little boy and put him on his shoulders, giving the small homeless boy a ride, and her heart swelled. Inside Harrowville, it seems our little Tom is more than just another show-off. Thought the Nekomata. It had been 4 weeks since their arrival in Nami no Kuni, and not a peep has been made by Zabuza or his mysterious counterpart. Naruto yawned in boredom as he lounged on a finished portion of the bridge's edge. Currently, he and the pink-haired howling monkey named Sakura were on bodyguard duty. The girl was sitting on covered materials, her chin resting on her left hand as she watched the super bridge builder. The blonde Jinchuriki repressed a scowl when the girl spoke suddenly. I wonder if Sasuke-kun is learning a special jutsu from Kakashi-sensei. TCH, why worry about him when the mission is right here? Naruto countered with a scoff, the Cyclops and Fag are none of our concern, we gotta make sure Tazuna doesn't die after drinking a beer. Sakura swiveled around to glare at him. Don't disrespect Sasuke-kun, he's the strongest in your class, but tell me again, how long has he been an ass? The blonde countered as he sat up, guys like him are self-centered and hopeless. Do yourself a favor and find a new focus. You don't know what sort of pain Sasuke-kun has been through. The pinkett defended her crush, his own brother turned traitor and slaughtered his whole family. Naruto snorted and crossed his arms, that all? That all? What kind of asshole? Stuff it you pink-haired bitch. Naruto snapped as he appeared in front of her, his blue eyes narrowed in fury. Your little boyfriend has a whole village kissing his ass and he continues to act like he's the most unfortunate person in the world. How many times have you seen the Uchiha go hungry? How many times was he ignored? Your boy may be a lot of things, but knowing suffering ain't one of them. What does? Oh, grow the fuck up. Naruto snarled, his mood officially worsening. Look around you. These people are getting by through scraps, and you have the nerve to suggest your precious Sasuke-kun has it worse. You know what? Go back to the house. I'll handle guarding the bridge. Since you can't keep your mind off your Wonderboy. Sakura looked around for some sort of defense, but all she got were a few loathing glares and a few disappointed looks. Not thinking of the repercussions, the girl quickly ran back towards Tazuna's house. The bridge builder in question cast a questioning look Naruto's way. Was that necessary? She was more a hindrance than a help, Naru. To muttered before going back to his perch, I can't do my job if I have to watch your back and that ninja pretending whelp. The other builders scratched their heads in mild confusion at his words before getting back to work. Naruto sighed and spammed a few more bunshin to help with the process. He was starting to wonder if complaining to was worth the migraines this mission seemed to be giving him. And Yugito, thinking of his fellow, yet more beautiful, Jinchuriki, Naruto idly wondered, I hope she won't be too mad that I sent the Banshee her way. Meh, I'll deal with it later on today. I'm going to kill him. Yugito raged in the confines of her mind. While Hatake, who was losing more and more respect from the Kumogakur Chunin, taught the Uchiha basic chakra control methods like Tree Wa. King, something she and Naruto had mastered at a young age due to their tenets and their obscene chakra pools. The Nekomata Jinchuriki was protecting Tsunami and Inari. Tsunami was a kind woman and had already explained the incident that had cost her husband and Inari's stepfather's life, earning a large amount of empathy from the teen. She knew what it was like to lose someone, as her mother did sealing Nibi into her body at the ripe age of 2. Yugito later told the same story to Naruto, who then went to talk with the brooding Inari. Whatever he said to the boy surely changed him for the better. Because now instead of moping all day, Inari was helping his mother around the house and asking Yugito about her life as a ninja. It was going well for the first few hours, until Sakura came in with a depressing aura around her. Tsunami's mothering instincts picked up on this and immediately asked the girl what was wrong. Yugito was currently clenching her fists at the new headache her Amit and fellow Jinchuriki had brought her as Sakura finished sobbing out an apology. The platinum blonde knew what she had to do now would more than likely cause problems between them and the Leaf Shinobi. The only saving grace was that this joint mission was not the first and that Yugito would easily be able to avoid missions with Team 7 later on in life. Listen, I know what he said made you mad and embarrassed you on the bridge. But sadly, the Chunin hesitated before finishing her thought. Sadly, Naruto is right. Damn right. The nerve of this girl. She disgusts me. Not now. Why? Yugito scolded internally while keeping her gaze on the depressed Genin. Sighing, Yugito started to explain herself. Kami, what I mean is that shinobi life isn't the fairy tale you expected, and that Baka just doesn't know how to tell you that. Sure, the Uchiha had a bad roll from Destiny's dice, but someone else will always have it worse. I can't promise that my teammate is wrong, Haruno-san, but I can promise you that the way he expressed it was, and he will pay for it dearly. Thank you, Yugito-san, Sakura said with a small smile. Hours passed, with Kakashi and Sasuke returning shortly after the pink-haired girl had. Before Tazuna and Naruto strolled in, the former with a small bottle of sake in hand and the latter with a bag of ice on his head. Sakura and Tsunami were in the main room, and despite the morning's disagreement, Sakura did show some concern for the blonde. Uzumaki-san, are you alright? Nothing to worry about, Haruno, Naruto muttered as he sat down on the couch, keeping the ice pack on his head. I just overused a technique and now I feel like I got sent through a wall by my big bro. The girl growled in irritation at the rap and conveyed her thoughts. Can you stop rapping? It's so irritating. Quote, Ma, everyone is allowed to have their own quirks, Sakura, Kakashi said calmly as he descended from the stairs. The man lowered his porn for a slight moment to address the teen on the couch. I need you to go get Yugito-san, Naruto. Sasuke and I had a very interesting experience today that everyone should know about. Man, Naruto groaned as he stood up, may want to hold it off till tomorrow. Can't promise that Neko-chan will let me walk back in her without some damage to my bone marrow. Kakashi's sweat dropped. Why yeah, Kami, that one was awful. The blonde Kumogakur Genin went out the back, a nod to Tsunami as he did so, before he began releasing some chakra to find Yugito. He scrunched his face up in confusion with his eyes closed as he sensed her to be right on top of him. Which is strange, because Yugi-chan ain't on top of, shit. Baka. A fist collided with his throbbing head and Naruto howled in pain. Yugito then deliver a light, roundhouse kick to the back of his head, sending her fellow Jinchuriki flying out towards the water that the back of the house faced. Naruto sent chakra to his hands and knees as he bounced across the water before skidding to a stop like it was land. Okay. I might have deserved that, the teen muttered as he pushed himself to his feet. He barely managed to bring his arms up to defend himself when Yugito sent another kick towards his face. You freaking baka, Yugito scolded as they fell into a taijutsu battle, hers focusing on powerful kicks whilst his focused on the nin taijutsu of the raikage. Unfortunately, he was on the defensive. Yugito swept a leg at his feet, making Naruto jump backwards. Oi, what did I do? Or is this another one of those painful flirts from you? Naruto attempted to bring his flirty rap side out, only for the words to fuel the fire in Yugito's eyes. He quickly blocked another kick to his core, still sliding back from the impact. Baka, Yugito snapped, Ed once more rushing towards him and bringing another leg up, you could irons with the Konoha genin. It would have reflected poorly to the Konoha council. Naruto's confusion turned into understanding, before it snapped into anger. So what? Fuck them. Yugito's eyes widened and she quickly found herself on the defensive. Naruto brought his left arm back, quickly enhancing it with chakra, Kyuda, haymaker. Quote, the slightly overhanded punch caused Yugito to take a step back when she blocked it. Naruto's own rage was causing his eyes to turn red and he brought his other arm up, fuku, hook. Quote, what's gotten into you? Yugito demanded as she slid away from the impact once more, panting slightly. Is this B&A-sama's power? Kami, what's gotten into me? Naruto growled as he was on her once again, extending his arm out. Rariato, lariat. Quote, oh shit. Yugito quickly ducked under the attack, knowing the damage her teammate could do with it. Doing so left her back exposed and made her remember that Naruto was much more nimble than his two bulky brothers. Hiji elbow. The attack was called out, and even then, Yugito couldn't dodge. The joint struck true and fast between her shoulder blades. A bit higher would have killed her, and even if he hadn't enhanced it, it would have knocked her out. As it was, he did neither and aimed lower, resulting in the older Jinchuriki falling to her hands and knees. Two arms slipped under her own and hands interlocked behind her head. Nelson, Naruto calmly said, though the anger was brimming in his tone. Yugito felt the hold her in place as he brought her to her feet, and thought she was a few inches taller than he was. He kept the lock strong. Naruto took a few calming breaths before he spoke softly, Neko-chan, I'm sorry. I lose control of myself when that council is involved. Concern replaced any embarrassment or anger she might have felt. Before Yugito could ask about it, Naruto released his hold and started walking away. Heard in the soft padding of his feet on the water. Yugito quickly turned around and followed after him. Once again, before she could ask, he interrupted her, but rather than ith actions and said, Hataki-san has some news for us. Better hurry or the others might cause a fuss. Oh kitten, I'm so proud of you. That's one step forward. Now, all you have to do is seduce Naruto and, I get the jitters just thinking about it. Listen to me, I sound like a proud mother. No wait. I am a proud mother. Hurry and give me a healthy litter of grand kittens, kitten. Naruto, when you get back to Kumo you may do so alone, because I may kill myself before the night is over. I want you to know that if it happens, I leave all my belongings to Samui. Try to cut back on rapping, kick B in the face for me. And give A-sama a hug for me. Oh okay. Kakashi kept a gaze on Yugito and Naruto as soon as they sat down at the table. There was some tension and he was sure it was because of the fight they had on the water. Now while he didn't mind overhearing a lover's spat every now and again, it led to a raunchy Ika scene after all. Now wasn't the time for it. Once, he was sure the two Kumo shinobi weren't going to cause any more problems. He sighed, just before Sasuke and I finished our training, we ran into that hunter nin. Naruto immediately perked up at this and interest was evident in his eyes. The shinobi sighed. Before I realized it was him, and thus removed him from the equation. He was picking herbs. The kind of herbs one would mix in a healing salve for burns. Needless to say, I think Zabuza's just about done healing. We need to come up with a game plan. Naruto growled, I should just go kill that pig now. Life would be easier without that sow. We don't even know where Gato's base is. Naruto, Yugito reprimanded the team. Even interrogation on Zabuza and his partner won't work. Our best bet would be to split up. I agree. My team N.D.I. will join the bridge builder tomorrow. No. The words came from Naruto instead of Yugito as his features became unnaturally serious. Unlike your team, Zabuza and his hunter Nin are shinobi in the truest sense of the term. Yugito-chan and I aren't up to par on his skill level, but we can definitely defend Tazuna better than Uchiha and Haruno. Naruto's right, Yugito said before anyone could debate the thought. Primarily Kakashi or Sasuke, unlike your students, Hitaki, we're both high Chunin level, even if I'm the only one with the rank. The Uchiha at his best may be a low Chunin, but even then, he still hasn't awoken his Sharingan. I suggest, you, Naruto and I guard Tazuna. Tomorrow while your team protects Tsunami. I can assure you that Gato probably has a contingency plan in case Zabuza falls. Sensei, I can hold my own. Now hold on a minute Sasuke. Kakashi said with his hand raised, his shinobi mind coming forward as he thought. Before he continued, Yugito-san is right. Neither of you are prepared to face Zabuza, and I can't let you fight the hunter Nin alone. You will stay here tomorrow with Sakura and guard Tsunami. Understood. But that was an order, Genin. Kakashi replied with a no-nonsense taking tone. Sasuke scowled and crossed his arms before huffing out an understood. Meanwhile, a certain swordsman crushed an apple in his grip. Good, I barely feel the tingling sensation that lightning technique left in your back has healed completely. Hi, Zabuza-sama, the masked Nin replied as they frowned. The Kumo shinobi will not get the drop on me again. They had better not, Haku. Zabuza sternly said with a scowl, I have no use for a useless tool. Of course, Zabuza-sama, the newly named Haku said with a bow. Zabuza gripped his massive blade's handle and impaled it into the ground. We will strike the bridge tomorrow, before Tazuna arrives. Hi, Zabuza-sama, the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.